Hey folks, I'm very happy. I'm here with you again at another episode of Borderless Commerce. My usual support, my friend, my mate, the growth expert, AJ is with me, and we have managed to we should be able to impress you again with the selection of the guest that we have today.
Hopefully.
And we have today Valon Xhafa. He is the CEO and founder of an organization that we, in many ways, look up to in the commerce field. And that is Behemix. Outstanding name, Valon. Thanks for actually setting this, bringing this organization to us, to the industry, and glad to have you here with us today. How are you?
Hey, Ahmad, I'm great. Thanks for having me, and looking forward to a very, very interesting discussion.
Absolutely. We will give you that. We promise. This is the reason for our existence, AJ and mine. We do that. We bring, these interesting, intelligent, as AJ likes to put it, a conversation to the folks who are following us, to the industry, to, all those involved and interested. So, well, one very standard podcast question, right?
Can I just
So,
jump in and give the listeners a bit of background? Because I think it'll be fascinating, because you don't know what I'm
absolutely.
about to say either, which is hopefully scary for you. I actually met Valon's former VP of Sales, Claire, at the same event on the same night that we met.
Wow.
You
Wow.
don't know that, but that's the gold honest truth. Me and Claire and me
So,
and you met on the same event from the same person.
So
There you
this
go.
is amazing, right? Just to put perspective on that, folks, we were together at an event, and that was the first time I met AJ, and they were breaking breakout sessions out there, right? So
Yeah.
we met together, and AJ is telling me that's really spooky, scary kind of a thing. That that's where Behemics happened. This is okay.
Yeah.
This is interesting.
There you
So
go. Context.
absolutely. There's a word, in Urdu, it's called darkhana, and that's how you basically, build these connections. So anyway, amazing.
Anyway.
So, well, you are here, right? So I'm gonna start with how did this Behemix thing started? I mean, I was going through your profile, right, and I was reading through it. You've been into academia, you've been to different kind of gigs that you had, and normally one way someone like me anticipating that, you would go into putting some amazing research together, but Behemix putting an organization together, how did that happen? And who is Valon Xhafa before, what was your influence to get into this as a person?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. I was not really a huge fan of building startups. That's probably like 10 years ago or something while in college. And I was always interested on doing a PhD in computer science and then building some great research. And then by the time I was in master's, I was figuring out very fast that doing a PhD is a very slow process, and
Yeah,
accessing the data and getting the data from the partners and the colleges and the university departments, it takes a lot of time. So I had a lot of students, PhD students, complaining that it was taking like what 3, 4, 5 minutes to just get a sample data set from the industry partner in order to perform some key basic analysis before you go out there and build more stuff, right? So and then this kind of like turned me off dramatically because at the core, I'm a researcher. I have always been a researcher. I love building great things. If there is something that exists in the market, I'm not attracted by it. So one can say that I have definitely a contrarian approach to things, and that's something that drives me a lot. And when I was seeing these examples from the PhD programs, I lost interest very fast on conducting a PhD, and I found very fast that actually, if you build a startup, or a company or a tech company, yes, there are ups and downs. Yes, you definitely have to start learning on how to hire people, manage things, organize things. But at the end of the day, you do the research that you like to do. Nothing is assigned to you, right? You are not working for someone else's paper. You're working just for yourself, by yourself, and collecting the data by yourself, right? So that thing kind of like was the best of all worlds, pretty
Yeah,
much.
yeah,
The
yeah,
only challenge was how to find a project and how to get started, right?
yeah.
So I got very lucky. I definitely got very lucky back in 2016. You remember probably the fake news and everything going on in the
Yeah, yeah.
market, that it was kind of like a starting point. So I was back then doing my master's in computer science in Munich, in Germany. And I came up with an idea, with an AI idea, to collect news articles and be able to classify and understand whether these news articles are talking about pro or against a specific topic, are they supporting a topic, the biases in the media, right? Take into account, this was like 2016, right? And I applied for Google investment because Google provides investment in terms of media startups and media solutions in Europe, especially in the DACH area. But I'm sure they were also providing investments in the UK, and I was able to get the investment from Google to start building this. Remember, this was back in 2016. We didn't have
Yeah,
language models,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So if you're surprised in terms of like how do you raise money from being able for a startup that just classifies biases and understands the biases in media, it was 2016,
Yeah.
right? So language models didn't exist. And the funny part is that we built the product and we got some users and we started to build some partnerships with some large media firms in Germany. And we saw it very fast that actually was a large buyer that wanted to actually buy the tech, because we saw it also early on that this tech that we built fits perfectly into a well-established media company than actually trying to create a complete separate company out of that with users and subscriptions and everything like that. So I was able within a year and a half from raising money from Google to sell the company, make an exit. And then again, the funny part is that back in 2016, you could have sold the company to a large media firm for something that now you can do with a prompt on ChatGPT. So that's
Yes,
how
yes.
that's how far the tech has gone. And I remind a lot of people who complain that ChatGPT or language models are not smart enough and they're making mistakes. And
Yes.
I tell them that, hey guys, look, like back in 2016, the best models were sentiment analysis. And I raised money to build this thing because you cannot apply sentiment analysis in news articles, right? Because they don't have a sentiment in terms of the sentiment. Like, I like this, I don't like that, right? No, like journalists, they don't write articles like this. It's a higher level language, and they write like completely in an indirect way. So the models had to understand this. And back then, there was nothing like this that could actually do this at large scale. But again, right now, language models can do what I did in 2016. I raised money for and I sold the company. It was just a prompt, and that with a very, very, very high accuracy. So that's how fast things have gone since then.
And well, and now I want to basically kind of bridge this year and a half of yours to finding Behemix, right? So I think commerce, if you look at it in my brain, and generally speaking, it's all about persuasion, right? Only two left, and hurry up, there's a discount and all these things. So a lot of behavior, of course, trigger points there. Now, do you think that you having, and when you're talking about these, tweaking of the behavior in a certain way in the commerce world, that means, you need to be very well researched or informed on how human behavior and psychology works, and then finding a way to implement this in the commerce kind of arena. Did you find this transition I mean, natural coming to you? You had an advantage because of your academic background, or was that just kind of a thing that happened? I don't know. We were talking to someone, Umar. He is, like yourself, and he was saying, I do not know. Something just happened, right? I was hired by my father, and I was fired in 2 months, and then something else happened, and something else happened. Was that kind of a journey? It was structured, or it was a journey that came to you?
The funny story is that while during this year and a half while building the product
Hmm.
and collecting and creating a training set to train these models, I had to go through a lot of news articles. So I had to read a lot of news articles. And I had
Okay.
to, whenever the model was not performing, you had to go and read the article and see and try to figure out why the model is not recognizing any biases in this article,
Hmm.
right? And again, when you read a lot of articles, you become a bit you you can become smart, right?
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
like not like like just reading a lot of research papers. You become like very smart in terms of like understand the academia and everything else. But when you read a lot of news articles, a lot of articles about different topics, different parts of the world, right? You start really put the bits and pieces together. And
Yeah.
what I saw was this kind of like touch and feel on how these articles were put together and what they were talking about. And at the center of everything, every conflict, every development, every initiative, every scandal,
Hmm.
every super growth in terms of GDP or like company growth, we're humans. We're us,
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Like
Absolutely.
our decisions were being accumulated together, and we're creating this, you can call it butterfly effect, you can call it like different types of effects that were like then impacting more and more and more and more things. So what I learned is that obviously our actions or psychology and how we perceive the world, has a huge impact on literally everything. Because even the economy and the growth of the economy, the recession and everything is literally, you can trace it down to whether users add a product to the cart or not, and how often they add that product to the cart or not, right? You can even measure that. There were even studies before I started Behemics where they were proving that even the type of colors that users and people like to buy in clothes can actually explain recession versus good years of economy development. So this fascinated me. Like it's very fascinating to be able to understand the human perspective and the GDP, for example, by measuring, like even from satellites, measuring what part or what percentage of that country is, like has lights and being able
Hmm.
to calculate and factor that in. And then you have, for example, the happiness score and the recent reports just got published, right? Being able to understand why some people in some countries are happy and less in others. Yes, obviously GDP is one of the factors, but there are so many other factors. So bottom line, I figure out very fast that the psychology and the decision making we do is a combination of multiple factors. And the idea is that if you put the right AI approach and you identify the right data points to collect, you can understand the psychology at a pretty good amount of level. You can understand why consumers are buying, why consumers are spending versus not spending, how are they feeling, how are they dressing, like are they walking faster or slower, how are they reacting. It's a very, very interesting topic because sometimes we talk about so many higher level things that we forget that at the end of the day, we're just humans and we have feelings and we have emotions. And these feelings and these emotions and that psychology actually is creating everything else.
Yeah, and this is very interesting, right? And this journey of yours also kind of tells me that most of the people coming from, people like us, people like you, they are the ones who have kind of, ridden this tide of AI. in when ChatGPT basically happens, right? When the whole tech kind of became very sexy. Although in 2015, 2016, when Salesforce were in there, the Einstein, the module, it basically launched, introduced that. We were aware of AI and what it could do, just at maybe at the applicability level too. But you were one of those folks who kind of, helped created it, contributed in one way or the other where it is today, right? Now, you were telling that story on Behemics, before we went live, how the name kind of came through. That was very interesting. And, the way you add the perspective to it. So do you want to share it with the folks who will be listening to us? This is a very interesting one, right? The name,
Yeah,
Behemics.
yeah, definitely. Behemix stands for behavioral economics, right? So, how does the behavioral part impact literally everything around us? How does behavioral economics explain our actions? Explain why consumers are buying a product, not buying a product, how consumers are returning a product and not returning a product, right? So it has been a field, and there are even Nobel Prize winners in this space that have used behavioral economics to explain GDPs, explain and come up with economical structures and approaches to tackling recession, right? So it has been a field that has shown a lot of promise. And what we wanted to do, my co-founder and I, luckily, that's also the lucky part, is that I was looking for a behavioral scientist as a co-founder, right? So that we can
Hmm.
combine my AI skills with behavioral part. I luckily found one, and we as soon as we met, we quit our jobs more or less the next week because we found that there is a huge match here because we both felt that from my perspective, AI definitely could help behavioral economics at scale, understand the behavioral psychology at scale, not just on spreadsheets and some fundamental analysis, but really being able to pull data from different sources to better understand the decision making. And the same vibe, the same feeling was also from my co-founders and who was thinking that, like all these different sites, all these different papers, they are good, but as long as there is no AI model that can pull in all these data points to be able to predict something with high accuracy, this is not going to scale, right?
Hmm.
And this is how the whole process started, and we call Behemix Behemix pretty much for the sake of behavioral economics. And again, as we mentioned also during the discussion, I do believe that every single thing that happens in the world in terms of GDP, in terms of economy, in terms of behavior, in terms of trends, comes down to the psychology of humans because we are
Absolutely.
who we are, right? And being able to pinpoint down the genesis of these actions. Where does this action start? Where does recession start? Where does the supply chain bottleneck start? In somewhere, like somewhere in the Suez Canal or like in the Mediterranean part or what's the genesis of this, right? Of
Hmm.
this bottleneck. This is something that's very important, and there is always a genesis because, as I mentioned before, luckily these days we're buying a lot of products, and e-commerce is definitely a good portion of buying goods, right?
Hmm.
And luckily, you can track that. You can analyze the data, you can analyze the behavior, and like when consumers buy less products and they add less products to the cart, this is going to be displayed, it's going to be represented on different other charts in the coming weeks and months, including the GDP, right? And then
Right.
also stock market and you name it, literally. So there is a lag, Hamad. There is a strong lag, right? It takes time for these effects to be built up. But the genesis is definitely on the psychology of users.
So this is now interesting, right? So the psychology and the AI. Now you happen to be someone who is kind of, um, you should be in a position to find yourself at the intersection of AI and psychology slash, behavioral science. Now, how are the with AI coming in and us, becoming those animals that who are very much familiar now. This is not no 2016. Now, how does this shifting the whole landscape on that psychology? Number one, and number two is I would want to basically touch that how are business not ready, the brands, for example. Some of the people that, I speak to, and AJ, I'm sure you share that thought with me that, folks that are saying, we're just gonna do whatever is available in terms of, through Shopify or Magento or whatever, yeah, their AI. Or they'll just go and touch or retouch some of the images, they're using that. But what will be the certain, changes they have to make to be successful based on the shifts that you are seeing today?
Yes, maybe I'll definitely start with the latter question, with the second one, because I have literally there are like two answers to this, and this is at the core of Behemix. The first answer is a short-term answer. The second answer is related to the Behemix genesis and DNA and what we're trying to achieve with Behemix in the long run. So the first one, the short-term one, is that there are a lot of manual tasks and processes within these organizations, not only in e-commerce, worldwide, pretty much, where time is spent on crafting manually a lot of paperwork, a lot of documents, processing a lot of information, putting together a lot of information, right? Sharing information, communication-wise, that could be automated, semi-automated, scaled, and completely removed from the process. This is something that is making a huge impact. It's going to make a huge impact, and it's also going to make the difference between a successful brand and not successful brand, right? Yes, the images part, crafting them better, improving them better, definitely a good component. In my opinion, the issue within e-commerce is more in the background than actually in the foreground. And in the background, like with every single other company, right? There are so many back and forth, so many inefficiencies that take place in the background while trying to build the products, while trying to put the products together, the catalog, supplying the products, analyzing the data, like all of these different things have a huge impact. So for example, let's say in terms of the ads, right? The marketing. Marketing accounts for a huge portion of the spending for each brand,
Absolutely.
especially ads. And to this day, there is nothing where it actually tells you that these ads are working because of this reason, because of that reason, and be able to know that exactly. It's still a manual process work where a lot of people, a lot of employees within a brand, they go and dig into historical data for these ads and try to infer meanings and reasons out of this data. It's inefficient, Hammad. It's not going to happen. It's never going to happen because ad performance, for example, is a result of a long list of different factors. And humans, they completely fail take into account more than 3-4 different factors on making a decision or understanding something, right? So we have to be self-aware of our limitations, and this is why AI is better. At the end of the day, it's just that the AI doesn't really have this bandwidth. It doesn't really have this limit. We humans have it, right? We cannot take a lot of information to account because our time span, the amount of information we store in our brain when we think about, when we read information, we try to make decisions, is very, very low. And you cannot make information and reasons based on 3-4 different factors, right? So avoiding this whole manual, I didn't find manual tasks. I didn't find the tasks that are taking a lot of time. Running automations, either LLMs or image generations or understanding things at scale is something that's fundamentally important. And it's for the short term, it's definitely going to make a change between a brand being successful and a brand failing. Because if you as a brand are not using AI on different purposes, your competitors are. And as you know, e-commerce is a competitive market.
Very competitive. Yes,
Right. So
absolutely.
it's not really growing dramatically in the short term. So the only way for you as a brand to grow and or stay stable where you are is more or less like getting more market share from your competitors. So if you're not applying AI, your competitors' chances are very, very likely they are.
Yeah, yeah.
But surely the other factor that you need to bear in mind is that your AI being driven by somebody intelligent is going to be far more effective than AI being driven by somebody who doesn't know what they're doing.
Yes.
And I think I remember talking. Well, I was doing a consulting gig about 18 months ago with an SEO agency here in the UK. I remember having to help them rewrite 200 meta descriptions of sealants and glues, right? Industrial sealants, industrial glues. The most boring. I'm sure it's a very profitable business, but it's the most boring task I've ever had to do. And I used Gemini for it. Well, it was Bard at that point, right? But I was having to show the other team members. So here's what we're going to do. Here's how we can prompt. And none of them cared. And I was like, guys, this is going to steal your job in the next 5 years, and your job is to become obsolete because the four of you will be replaced by one person who can prompt. And they just didn't get it.
Very common, very common mistake that I've seen across different industries. What you just said, AJ, and the riskiest part within a brand, within a company. This is applied to the whole industries pretty much. Is not really applying AI as early as possible, but actually being on the complete opposite of it, of being ignorant towards the AI. There are a lot of industries, a lot of fields like content generation. I'm not saying that it's going to replace completely humans, but I completely confirm what you just said, AJ, that from 4 or 5 content writers, only one is going to be needed because this one person can do the work of 4 people through the assistance of AI. And this is also my take for this podcast. AI is not here to replace us. AI is here to assist us. But when AI gives us super capabilities, this means that we can do the work of 4 or 5 other content writers, other managers, other employees. And as you said, AJ, your job is not going to be, your position is not going to be available. You know,
Yeah.
so
Which scares me, but also invigorates me. So it scares me in terms of I'm old enough to have done some entry level jobs, worked with some great folks, and learnt my stripes that way. And I'm concerned that AI replacing people then doesn't give the next generation the opportunity to really learn. So how marketing works, how ops works, because a lot of that stuff is inferred; it's not learnt. I don't know what you feel about that.
this is a very this is definitely connected to the second reason, the long term that I was about to mention. So the genesis of and the DNA of Behemix lies on a very, very, very research focused hypothesis about the future of e-commerce. And this goes like this. The reason why e-commerce is as it is right now and has been for the last 25 years, the same layout, the same structure, the same user experience, is because of the super low accuracy in terms of understanding the user intent when the user lands on the site.
Correct.
What does this mean? The status quo, Hammad, by using first-party data and some other additional data, the status quo, the highest you can achieve on understanding what this user wants when they land on your site is 55 to, let's say, best case scenario, 60%. That's not enough. So that's the main reason why you don't have a hyper-personalized shopping experience. And instead, brands show you 10 different genes, like throwing the net, so that hopefully something is going to get caught,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
So, but the good part here is that there is a bit of glimpse into the future, and this is provided by TikTok. because TikTok personalization algorithm is one of the best ones in the world. That's why they got so much traction. And the way they do it is that they don't only use first party data, but they use more external data, economical data, weather data, and everything related to that. So that when users come to the TikTok platform, they can actually isolate more the understanding and the probability of what could be the state of mind of this user. And this is something that's fundamentally important. Something like this is not really taking place in e-commerce. The status quo is 55% to, let's say, best case scenario, over-engineer 60%. It's not enough to provide, it's not enough to take e-commerce into the hyper-personalized world that brands are wanting for. It's not. And we at Behemix, I can definitely tell you here on podcast, we have surpassed this 60%. And the aim for Behemix is to go to 85% accuracy. And we have this nice little very good board in the office where we have these lines and the milestones that whenever AI engineers achieve another milestone, they put a date on that. And then we can also track the progress. So the difference between 60% accuracy on understanding the user intent when they land on the site with 85% is the e-commerce how it is right now and the e-commerce of the future, where you don't have to show 20 products, 20 genes to hopefully something is going to be liked by consumers. But the important part is that also the marketing is going to change. And the way you show ads is going to change. The way you provide SEO is going to change. Because a lot of times when you search for genes, for example, you get 20 products on listed, right? So a lot of things also have to change from the marketing side of things, but Google and Facebook and other providers are going to adopt this. The only issue is that Facebook, Google, Instagram, TikTok, they have the data necessary for the e-commerce to evolve into a hyper-personalized world. They're just not willing to share that data with the brands. You know, Amazon is huge and it's eating up the market share, not only because they are huge and they have deep pockets, Hammad. It's also because they have a semi-closed loop of consumer behavior data that they can leverage to be able to better understand consumers. So what happens here is that, maybe just a last touch here, brands outside Amazon and Walmart, so the rest of the market, including enterprise, are cornered from Amazon, Walmart, TikTok, Facebook, Google into this bucket where these large companies are not allowing these brands to be hyper-personalized. Because of the data not sharing. It's a very deep conversation.
So how does privacy factor into that? Sorry, Hammad. I just want to ask this question because I thought it's highly relevant. I've been saying for the last 3 years that we need to have a better and a wider and a more nuanced discussion around privacy, right? Because for me, if I go onto Facebook and they show me an ad to do with wedding dresses, they've missed the point, right? And you would hopefully both agree, right? Well, I'm not sure about Hammad. He probably would go, yeah, you would look great on a wedding dress. Anyway.
As long as you're wearing a jacket.
Good. As long as I'm wearing a jacket. Whereas if I go on and there's a Bentley ad or there's a Rolex ad, I'm more inclined to spend time watching that and getting engaged. And I think we need to, again, I'd love to know how you're using this and how you're thinking about this. I think we need to have a wider discussion around what privacy is. Because there's privacy that is invasive, so people knowing every little detail about you and a lot of that data that you put online, right? And so it's the user trying to say, well, actually, I can claim back some of that data. But it's then the hyper-personalization that we're talking about that actually makes the overall experience of us using the platform even better, because we can get targeted with ads, with posts, or whatever, that are more aligned with what we view and what we value. But we're not having that discussion. We're having this very anti-privacy discussion at the moment. I know you guys are in the US. I'm in the UK, and I see this with GDPR, and I see this also with the CAN Act in California. that a lot of this stuff isn't to do with privacy; it's to do with users being, I'm being ungenerous here, being idiots and sharing every little nuance of their life on social and then complaining about it.
So AJ, um, I have a very interesting answer to this, right? Maybe it's not going to be enjoyable. Maybe you're not going to like it.
We're ready.
But
That's
Bring
what
it
you're here for.
on.
That's what you're here. So
just
that's what
just
you're here.
just heads off here.
You go for
Okay.
it, sir.
So e-commerce is going through a very, very difficult time. No one is happy, especially since pandemic, especially since all the privacy update laws from iOS and Apple and this and that and GDPR and everything else. So what has happened since pandemic? There are two things. First of all, a huge increase in competition, but no substantial increase on e-commerce overall. So which means that increased competition for the same or less attention consumers. And the second one is increase on ad costs because of these privacy laws. And as you know, when ad costs go up, this cost is going to be passed to the end consumer.
Correct.
Yeah.
So you, AJ, Hammad, me, and everyone else is going to pay that price. Obviously, brands cannot pass the whole cost right away, but they're going to try to slide it in slowly, step by step, not to alienate consumers. That's going to be passed to you. And what's happening right now is that no one is really happy. Consumers are not happy because products are expensive. Okay. Brands are not happy because their margins are super thin, thinner than it used to be. And no one's really making money. I think the only ones that are making money is, again, this also might not sound very well put. The only ones that are making money and are killing it are the are Facebook and Google and Instagram that are selling us super expensive ads because they love this. I'm telling you this, there is nothing better than an ad platform where you can buy ads and you have so low targeting rate because they make money by inefficiencies and not being able to show ads super targeted because then you don't spend money, right? If you can, I don't like, if you can get 10 users for $10, you just get 10 users for $10. You don't throw, I don't like, you don't throw like a grand on it. That's right now the case, you know? So yes, they are not, it's not on their own interest. And this is also part of the ad targeting and ad showing and everything else. It's not the big interest of these platforms to build and show super personalized targeting. I mean, you can just go to Google Ads Manager. It's probably the worst looking usable product on earth built by Google. It's such a mess. It's like it's coded by, how about it's like coded by an intern. Even an intern could do better. And the personalization.
They've done that for a reason, though, haven't they? They've done it so you spend more money, and that's your point. Well, that's one of your points.
It's done. It's done because you don't have anywhere else to go because they have the monopoly of the market, more than 90% of the market share, and they don't really mind. They don't really mind putting you through a lot of things because you have nowhere else to go, AJ, right?
Yeah.
And then the suggestions that they show you, you think that Google has the most amount of data. Google is the most powerful company in the world.
Yeah.
Google is not a search engine. Google is the largest marketplace in the world. On daily basis, billions of dollars are exchanged through Ads Manager for the attention of the user. Google is not a search engine. Google is the largest stock exchange market in the world when it comes to this industry, right? And because you have nowhere else to go, they don't really actually mind a lot like providing you a platform. And as you know, with a lot of marketplaces, from the marketplace perspective, they make more money when these transactions are not efficient.
Correct.
When there is a difference, a huge difference, right? That happens also in high frequency stock trading. The money is made on inefficiencies.
Yeah.
I,
on these
I,
small,
I was
small
about to,
differences.
I was about to mention libel. If you're old enough to remember the libel scandal in 2017, 2018, where it was these bankers in London phoning their mates in Frankfurt and saying, "Can we just have a percentage of a percentage of a percentage of a percentage point difference?" And they were making millions. They're making millions off of the fraction of the fraction of the fraction of 1%.
Yeah, so
And
that's kind of like the biggest issue right now because you know like you cannot really force Google or Facebook to provide you more advanced capabilities when it comes to ads, and that's why there is exists a market in terms of this industry where you can actually use tools that are a bit more advanced, you know, to like as a compromise to be able to have these targeting capabilities and these analytics on how to run better ads and more efficient and more targeted. But the short answer is that Google and these platforms, they have the data, they have the insights, they know why your ads is not working, they know why your ad is not performing. They just don't share this data with you because why would they? No one wants to have their revenue cut in half or something, you know.
yeah,
So
so they would basically guard their 90% of market share by anything
yeah,
possible. So well, if I'm a brand today, right, and I basically relate to, and what you have said, of course, it's making every sense in the world in terms of, these bigger players. Let's take an example of Amazon, right? So they have the data, they're looking how the things or the consumer they're responding. And that would eventually mean me as a brand that my dependency on the marketplace has gone up, right? Where Amazon can basically go, and if they see I have, in my catalog, there are 10 products, eight are not doing so great, two are doing great. And what they'll do is they'll look at the data, and what they'll do is they'll put up something manufactured, the same thing, and they will start selling it. And they will have better reach, bigger reach all the way than I could ever have. Now, my question is, when you kind of, plug in with Behemics into this, you are giving those insights, helping the businesses, getting those insights, consumer behavior, all those things. So today, if I'm a brand looking at you, how would you work with me so that I could basically drag myself out from the marketplace dependency to my own channels per se, right? So if you can paint that out for me and my understanding as a brand owner.
yes, that's a very very good question. And the way Behemix works is Behemix is a platform, and within the platform Behemix there is a suite of products that tackle different component layer of the online store. Right? We saw initially 5 years ago with just the conversion rate and car abandonment optimization. But now we've added more and more and more layers where AI is integrated. And guess what? AI is not only for product recommendations, because this is also something that a lot of brands ask for when they think about AI. Oh, it's just AI, it's product recommendations, so that's pretty much it, right? So it actually goes deeper than that. Everything that is as part of the online store is something that could be disrupted and is being disrupted through the products as part of the Behemix platform. So we have the conversion rate optimization on site, improvement. The next layer is the product performance optimization, right? Because some products sell, some products don't sell. Being able to understand why the products are selling, why not, and at which degree and which price point and everything. This is fundamentally important. And then you have the site performance optimization. Like a slight thing as a site speed. Site speed is probably the most impactful factor across most of the KPIs. And I'm surprised to see when I see slow sites, and especially for brands, because site speed has an impact on your conversion rate, has an impact on your ad costs, because Google takes this into account to give you a price on the bidding exchange system, right? It kills SEO. It kills the retention of users, right? So being able to understand how your site speed is performing and where the issues are and where you can actually improve and how to improve and run automation to improve is very, very important. And then the next layer is the organic traffic, Organic traffic optimization is very important because for our clients, and especially enterprise ones, it accounts for 25%. It's a quarter of the traffic. And being able to optimize this and being able to start getting organic traffic in a very competitive world is very important. And also being able to understand which direction to build the SEO in this case and not spend 3-4 years on SEO tactics. And guess what? SEO tactics are dead, long gone. And most of the companies that got penalized last year from Google's updates in algorithms, we have run our software and we're able to identify that they were doing playbook SEO, which used to work for the last 15 years. Put the keyword here, and then you create something that doesn't look natural. And Google penalized a lot of sites for that. So being able to have a predictable way on building SEO, an assisted way on building SEO with estimations, not just a black box, not just statistics and tactics, is very important. And soon this month, so in April, actually, not in March, but in April, we are launching also another product as part of the Behemix platform that optimizes the ads on Google. And that's why we were talking about this.
Okay.
And that are some of the findings, because what we found out is that Google takes a lot of information into account, a lot of factors about you, your competitor, your ads, your spending, your society, your latency, and everything else. And we wanted to use AI and apply AI to perform two major capabilities that are non-existent right now. First, tell me why my ads are not performing, please. Not just show me some useless information on Google Ads Manager, okay? Tell me why. Is it because my site speed is too high? Is it because my content is not relevant with the copy? Is it because the competitors are spending more budget? Why? I just need an answer, right? I don't need a bunch of blocks and boxes and this and that. Because frankly speaking, I don't trust these boxes. Especially, I don't trust anything, any recommendations coming from Google or Meta. I want a third party tool to collect this data and tell me what to do. And through this process, we have actually seen that a lot of these recommendations, we were comparing while building this product, we were comparing the recommendations from Google and or predictable insights, and we were seeing that a good portion of these recommendations would actually send you towards higher cost, not lower cost, right? So this is where we also found out that, hey, it's not really in the best interest of Google to make you pay less and get higher, higher conversion. It's actually the complete opposite, which it makes sense, right? That's how the world runs. And that's why understanding behavioral psychology and human psychology is very important, because it gives you answers to a lot of things. Not just humans, but also how companies act. Because at the end of the day, we're humans, right? Even if you go and talk to a brand, there has to be a human to human connection, and you're going to be talking, and the emotions are going to take over, and this is part of the world. So in April, we're launching this product, Hammad, and it's going to be one of the most advanced product in the market, because not only it tells you exactly where the issues are for the whole funnel, not just your ad copy, but I'm talking about also in your landing page. And it's going to tell you in terms of budgeting, because managing budgeting has been done completely manually and blindfolded. So an example, if you increase the budget when the demand is low for that product, you're just going to increase your ad cost. Very much, or when your competitors also increase the budget and you also increase the budget, you're just giving Google more money, and none of you are actually doing anything. You're just increasing your ad costs altogether, pretty much, So that's the important part. But then the other part is also being able to improve these, right, and improve these in a predictable way. What happens if I change something? What happens if I improve the site speed from 2 seconds to half a second? How much my ad costs are going to go down, right? Because a lot of agencies, I'm sure AJ too, I think AJ, when we last spoke, you were mentioning this, and I've talked to a lot of agencies in the space who have actually experienced myself that these agencies, they are really advanced. The only issue is that clients are not actually fully understanding the impact of a lot of these. It might sound basic, but site speed is a fundamental piece of everything, because site speed impacts you everything, even your ad costs. So a thing like improving site speed that can increase your conversion rate on site and reduce your ad cost has to be prioritized first. You cannot go and do better designs in Outlook and this and that. Just go improve the site speed and literally improve two things. Two
Site
birds
speed
with one
is,
stone.
yeah, and site speed is an item, and I always give this analogy when I speak to folks that, it's so there were, if you ask the question that which electricity is the most expensive one, right? And that will always be the electricity that you don't have. That costs you the most. And this is the same with site speed. You got to have that working in your interest rather than making your life business difficult, etc. Well, now if I summarize what you've said in terms of Behemix, right? So as a brand owner, as a brand decision maker, so the differentiation I will get is, or the value prop, that if I am looking at Meta or Insta or Google, whoever, and their recommendations are primarily just, you're allowed, you're not allowed, right? This ad is allowed, this is permitted, not permitted, and it's kind of, packed with some BS recommendation. But in your case, in Behemic's case, the whole platform, it's primarily, positioned in a way where they are telling that why why is this not performing? If you tweak this, this improvement will happen, as you're saying, in a projected way, where I will also be getting that this is how the impact will be on the ad revenue or the budgets generally. Have I
Yes.
been okay?
Yes, that's a whole philosophy of Behemix. Explanation and prediction. Explanation in terms of understanding exactly where the issues are, not just with conversion rate or ad cost, but more or less being able to address as many questions as possible. You cannot do that with language models. Language models that have the capability of reasoning. They are great generating content, extracting information. They lack dramatically at understanding the real cost, measuring it in a numerical way. And then the second component of the genesis of Behemix, the DNA of Behemix, is this assistance, this predicted, estimated, assisted way of performing things, right? I brought the example of SEO, I'm bringing the example of ads, and most of the things so far have been trial and error. You try this, let's see it works, let's do it A/B testing, this and that, right? So the people who were lucky, for example, like AJ and other agencies, to work with large brands at large scale to get this data faster, because A/B testing take time, and get this knowledge, right? They could help other brands. But for majority of new brands just starting in the space of e-commerce, they don't have these experiences. And the worst part right now is that these learnings are being changed now and updated from Google literally on a monthly basis, more or
Yeah.
less, right? Which is making very hard to retain knowledge and experience and build on top of this. So this is why is fundamentally important to have this predicted, estimated outcome of every action you do. Let's say you improve the site speed, how much and where are these impacts going to be felt? What's going to be the outcome, right? If you change a page title, how much is it going to impact you on the SEO, right? Because it's not just about like putting keyword on the page title, because things are now a bit way more complex because of the use of language models, right? If you, for example, increase the price of a product, or if you put a product first and you switch the position of products, what's going to happen, right? All of these things are fundamentally important to be able to see the outcome, because the way the assistance come from AI is literally under the hood, Hammad, when language models and every single AI model provide you recommendation. The way they do it is that they go and see all the possible outcomes and they measure probabilities on that outcome to happen. And then they provide you the outcome with the highest probability. Okay? And that's the way we do it at Behemix, right? So the way we do it at Behemix is like, okay, this is the best possible outcome, but under the hood, we go and test all the possible outcomes. If, for example, the site speed is 2 seconds, right? Then we go and see how much it's going to be for 1.5 seconds, and for 1 second, half a second, 200 milliseconds, and this and this and this, to be able to provide you the best recommendations, or for the page titles, or for the page description, or literally everything you see when it comes to the e-commerce world, right? And we explain, but also we do these simulations, which at the end, from the end consumer, are just the assistants, right? The recommendation that we used to know and we know these days.
No, okay, this is, really elegantly put. As we're getting into the last leg of this conversation, and before I get into that, AJ, I'm gonna basically delegate that we need to get hold of this guy again. I
I think
mean,
we need to
we
do
need to,
part 4, part 5, part 12
like,
of
but
this guy, right?
yeah, I mean,
If that was
the conversation is so juicy, Valon. I mean, this is absolutely amazing. Now, the last leg,
100%.
um, it's how do you, work with a brand, right? In terms of what's your engagement model is. Do we get you get into a discovery call, you look at their system, you tell them, or is it just, the Behemix as a platform, just get the subscription and you get going? What's the engagement model?
Yes, it definitely depends what the end consumer wants, right? That the brand wants. So
So
the
you're
majority,
flexible
what
in
we
that.
exactly. So if the majority of the majority of the brands, a mid-size enterprise level, they want to get to know you, they want to get to know the platform, they want to get to see some results, some understandings. Smaller brands, they want to try it first before talking to you, right? And because of that, we're launching, starting from next week, we're launching some other products, ones in the SEO, but also in the ad space, and some smaller products where brands can go and test these products themselves on a free trial, and they can see if this is helpful, if this could provide important information for them, and then reach to talk to us, right? So we're slowly shifting towards a trial or a self-onboarding, self-testing, self-experiencing of the BMX platform and ecosystem before coming and talking to us. So at the core of the whole platform, whatever you do, we are going to do a very, very, very deep dive into a lot of the information that you have online, provided and compile it into a cutting edge audit. I'm not sure if we call it within Behemix AI analysis, because there are so many information that are provided within audit, where we tell exactly where the issues are and how these issues can be improved and should be improved in order to have an impact on their site. Why? Because with the exception of the revenue, or in this case, with the exception of the user behavior, the first party data you collect or the brand collects, everything else is available, Hammad.
Yeah.
Right? If you give me a site right now, I can tell you the top 5 issues that this site is facing, and I can even provide you estimations on how much these issues are impacting their bottom line. Okay? And these issues can range from ads issues, from SEO issues, from on-site experience, from product issues, from branding, from colors, from site performance, web performance, technical performance. These issues can be different. But what I can do, what I have the capability to do, is that I can provide you a dollar amount impact
Yeah.
on your bottom line. Because we do also have a published paper in the space, which takes into account issues and informations and factors, and is able to estimate a dollar impact, a revenue impact, a money impact of these issues on your bottom line. So if you have a site speed of, let's say, 1.5 seconds, we're talking about a lot about the site speed because it's a very interesting
Of
KPI that
course.
everyone
Yeah.
understands. So let's say if your KPI is 1.5 seconds or the site speed is 1.5 seconds, we can tell you how much your revenue is going to be increased if it goes to 1 second. Okay, and how much that improvement is going to take place, so that then you can prioritize all the issues based on the revenue impact, not based on someone's preference within the company, but based on the revenue impact that this has, the urgency, the priority. And a lot of SEO people, I've talked to them, they have gone through a lot of pain in the last few years trying to explain to brands that we cannot optimize your SEO, we cannot optimize your ads if you don't bring down your site speed from 5 seconds to below a second.
Yeah, yeah. And
And they
and
were not
and, and
doing
this
it.
is yeah. And well on that, what interests me as a person, that decision making, when it gets too much of subjective decision makings, right, where I have to see so many kind of subjective parameters and not one ROI item, and the best ROI item in the world is, how much money could you save or how much money could you make, the dollar amounts. That really is a very easy way to take this decision. So folks out there, who are kind enough that engage with us with our content, this is a very valuable conversation where getting this assessed, your systems through something like Behemix, this is going to give you exact, and probably you are out there, very few, or probably you're the only one, right? Which gives a projected dollar value savings that you get. You should give it a look. I will give it a look, of course. So I think very interesting, very valuable conversation. AJ, I'm going to thank you first to bring Valon on and Valon. Thank you very much for your time. This has been fun, and this has been very engaging and valuable insights. Even for me, I've learned so many things. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
I really appreciate it, Hamad. Thanks for having me.